Is it possible we can have a breakdown of Arabic, Mesopotamian, Russian, and East Asian symbolism correlating anyway with Latin and American symbolism? Yeah, of course. I mean, that's we have this book scroll called The Language of Time, because in order to have symbols, you have to go back to the origins of language, because language evolved. Well, in fact, it was imported here. As I was saying, other things were imported here from other star systems and other planets, and it evolved. So when you look and find the oldest kind of like findings and tablets, you find something called the Sabian plate, which kind of tie into this language. This language of time is dealing with our language, Misbatia, which is known by many as Nuapic or Sabaic, and this is how language evolves. So let me just read some of it. The ancient Mukhmatu Egyptians illustrated this concept by protecting your sacred name in a cartouche, which we call a shanash. That is why they use what was called a big name, throne name, or a known name, and a little name or hidden name whispered into the ear. So of course, language started from tones. So we explained that the dolphin was given the genes in a capsule to be transported here and put into the waters, and that capsule dissolved to form the blueprint or black print of where cells and genes came about, and then life evolved from the waters onto land. I'm saying that because the dolphins, they communicate with something called echolocation, which is dealing with tone vibrations, and that's how they communicate. And you look at the Sans people, or even people from Ghana, they speak with that click. That click or that tone was how tones eventually evolved. And I'll come back to this because it's very important as we have a live caller. Yeah, I was explaining that how language evolved from tones by dolphins using, like echolocation and the beings coming out of the waters. And then you start to go into how language evolved, and the women spoke first. So let me just read that before we go into showing you some of because the question was about symbols. While in Africa, many thousands of years before it was visited by beings called Natharu, overseers, who gave the female, right? So I'm reading from the Language of Time, page 22. So while in Africa, many thousands of years before it was visited by beings called Natharu, overseers, who gave the Asha, female, a voice box and taught her to speak, right? The Ashaf Karadu, female children, spoke before Ayash, male children, and women speak more and much better than men. Women have a much larger vocabulary than men. Don't believe me? Check it out. It has to do with her brain and the upward movement of the voice box and the FOXP2 gene that deals with speech. It is actually called forkhead box protein P2, commonly called FOXP2. This protein in humans is encoded by the FOXP2 gene, which is located on chromosome 7. When there is a disruption in this protein, individuals have a breakdown in speech. FOXP2 is required for proper brain and lung development, right? So it goes on. Planet did not, sorry, I went, the page is a bit messed up, so I should have gone from what I should have read from to that bit I just read is that the planet did not learn to speak until 10,000 on down to 6,000 years ago. They too were taught to speak by visitors called Anunnaki or Anakim, or the gods of the Bible and the Quran, where Adam was taught and given dominion named God's creation. And then it went on to that bit I just read. But as you can see, if I can show you this, right, you start to see the symbols. These symbols, okay, the ancient scripts, the heretic and the hieroglyphics of Egyptians, and even cuneiform script. Right, let me show you that one as well, because we're dealing with the symbols. Tell me when you got it, yeah? And one more. Okay, so when you look at the ancient scripts or the heretic and the hieroglyphics of Egyptians, and even cuneiform script used by the Sumerians, can be seen reflected in Asian scripts, as well as they evolved from pictures or symbols to the simplified forms you see today. So you see that picture I held up, you see the Chinese, the silkworm, you see the Japanese, love, you see the Sanskrit, which is Om, right? So you see below, you see more variations of script form found in different nationalities the world over. Pictures have been found in the deserts of Afafre-e-Ka'a, Africa, besides those inscribed on temple and pyramids. Don't believe me? Go check it out. 59, so it shows you the Tamil, the Korean, the Sajiki, and goes on to the Demotic script, the heretic, and all these have been found, right? The heretic script on papyrus, the heretic script on papyrus with a variation. 59,000 years ago, Zazastatu women spoke what was first taught to them by visitors from Sirius 58,000 years ago, and then she taught the men to speak. The Caucasian race of Adamites, strong number 119 and 132 on this planet, did not learn to speak until 10,000 on down to 6,000 years ago. You see, so going back to the original question, that's how you get the symbols that came from, sorry, my book is a little bit out of order because the pages have come apart. But yeah, so that's how the symbols. So yeah, so you say, is it possible we can have a breakdown of Arabic, Mesopotamian, Russian, and East Asian symbolism correlating anyway with Latin and American symbolism? Language is the problem, because when you're reading books today, for example, we go from the Arabic, which is the youngest of the religions, being 1400 years ago. People that don't know any better will tell you, this is the word of Allah, this is the original language, it's never been tampered with. And then you go and do your research and do the studies, and you find out that the Quran of today is not the same Quran that was in the original script of the Quraysh, which was given to Muhammad and his tribe. And there are different types of Arabic, there are different scripts. The Mali script, you have the Kufic script, then you have the fact that a lot of people that are speaking Arabic today are not speaking the same Arabic, they're speaking a dialect from their area. So Urdu, for example, will be different from Pakistan. Like there's different Pakistani scripts and dialects. So they will speak their version that's been copied and translated for them, not the original Arabic. So going backwards now from 1400 years with the Arabic, because even they will tell you that the Quran was destroyed, you know, when you look at the history with Uthman, and then the split between the successors in terms of, you know, Abu Bakr, and then going into Ali, who should have been the rightful successor. Then it goes on to the companions, and the hadiths, which a hadith is like the companions memorized, the Quran, and for years later they tried to put it back together, and there's like a system of Arabic with the vowels that are added, tamabota, etc., etc. But you have to do your research and study. So yes, that's Arabic. You go to the 2,000 years ago, which is the New Testament, you're dealing with the Latin and the Greek, and again, different scripts, different versions. Then you go to the Hebrew, same thing. And then ultimately you'll say, all of these go back to the Sumerian or the Anunnaki tablets. Then you go backwards to the ancient Egyptian with the hieroglyphs. And these two are the oldest in terms of scripts. But the scripts have a spoken language to it, which most didn't know that it was our language of Sabaic, Nuwapic, Mispatia, known as Neptuhin in the Bible, which deals with Napata and that region, you see. So that question in terms of, how it all links up, you have to be able to connect the dots all the way from how you've ended up with English, which is a dialect of many different, pieces of language from like German, Yiddish, French, etc. So yeah, it does tie into the symbolism that you have all throughout. So the sun is a symbol that is used right throughout, but it ends up back into Egypt in Heliopolis, and to what I said before, as in Atum, Atun, Amun. And you see the sun in everything all the way to the symbolism of the logos of many of the companies today that they use the sun. All right, so yeah, that's a good question.